Hello and welcome, George Rodrigues, Senior Business Manager in Latin America. It is an immense privilege to be with you today to begin this journey of reflection and corporate transformation focused on the most valuable and at the same time most complex asset of our global economy. Throughout my career, I had the opportunity to act as a director in renowned multinational companies operating in highly regulated and competitive markets. However, when I decided to found my own consultancy, KpaGold, my purpose was very clear and personal. I wanted to bring the structural and strategic intelligence of global giants to small and medium enterprises, helping founders and heirs overcome the invisible pains that stall their businesses and threaten their financial wealth. Today, our focus is a theme that defines the destiny of millions of families and professionals. The theme of our lecture is high-performance family business, and we will dive deeply into the non-negotiable pillars of governance, succession, and professionalization. To understand the magnitude and origins of this theme in your operation, we must look at the roots of our global economy. Family businesses are not just a fragmented part of the market, they are the true and indisputable engine of the economy. Consolidated studies show that family-controlled organizations represent between 70 and 90% of all active corporations and contribute the vast majority of the global gross domestic product, in addition to generating about 60% of all jobs on the planet. In their essence, these organizations possess undeniable intrinsic competitive advantages that purely publicly traded corporations strongly envy, such as the presence of patient capital, enormous speed in decision-making resulting from leaner hierarchies, the ability to pursue unconventional strategies with a long-term vision, and a deep pride of ownership and authentic commitment to the family legacy and the community. The family business is exactly like a robust tree, where the deep roots of values, identity, and history determine the height and strength its branches can reach. However, despite all this natural and historical strength, we live in what the corporate market calls the great paradox of survival. Global statistics are cold and relentless with business owners. Only 30% of family businesses manage to survive the complex transition to the second generation. Worse still, this continuity rate plummets drastically to about 12% in the third generation, and only 3% reach the fourth generation and beyond. This means that 70% of all the effort, capital, and sweat invested by brilliant founders dies in the first transition of power. The harsh truth we must face as leaders is that most of these remaining companies collapse completely, not due to a lack of market demand, not due to passing macroeconomic crises or stronger competitors, but due to a chronic inability to overcome deep structural challenges on the fronts of governance, succession planning, and the technical professionalization of management. Initial success creates immense complexity in the structure, and complexity unmanaged with intelligence becomes the ruin of the family. To understand where conflicts are born right from the company's origin, the theoretical basis of global management adopts the three-circle model, originally developed at Harvard University. This model perfectly illustrates that every family business exists operating in three simultaneous and highly interdependent systems that need absolute balance. The first circle is the family, an essentially emotional system driven by affective bonds, shared history, unconditional loyalties, and sometimes old and deep resentments. The second circle is the business, a cold, logical, and rational system focused on the operation, marketing strategy, customers, employee performance, and the constant generation of financial results. The third circle is ownership, the patrimonial system where the analytical focus is on corporate quotas, board voting rights, dividends, and legal inheritance rules. The great risk and the origin of all chaos in operations reside in the intersections of these worlds. The core of greatest tension, the true pressure cooker, occurs when the founder and his children occupy the exact center of this model, being simultaneously loving family members, demanding owners, and stressed executives. When the boundaries and rules of these three universes dissolve due to a lack of structure, board meetings quickly turn into emotional childhood disputes, and relaxing Sunday dinners become corporate tensions and aggressive arguments about the week's cash flow. This brings us directly to the present scenario we face in medium-sized organizations today. We need to translate this conceptual model into the raw and practical reality of daily life and identify the exposed fractures of the current management you live. In our detailed diagnostics in small and medium enterprises, we mapped fundamental pains that silently destroy family businesses and drain the energy of the partners. The first and most common pain is the complete confusion of roles between family and business, where vital decisions about promotions and positions are made based on favoritism and blind blood ties, immediately and definitively driving away highly qualified external professional talents who do not tolerate working in environments of pure nepotism. The second present pain is succession totally neglected by the founder. The market today is living what major consultancies call the succession paradox. 85% of senior founders know perfectly well that succession is a vital step for the survival of the business, but only 23% have a formal, documented, and active process underway. Inertia dominates the corporate environment because succession is a painful biological and emotional reminder of the end of a cycle of power, and many leaders flatly refuse to prepare their exit, leaving the entire company exposed to a massive existential risk in the event of their abrupt absence or illness. The third pain we witness in the present is the terrible fratricidal conflict between family partners, where disagreements over compensation or strategic direction descend in weeks into personal rivalries that often culminate in the forced, fragmented, and disastrous sale of the family company. The fourth pain is the absolute absence of clear rules of behavior and entry for family members, generating a feeling of chronic injustice among employees and destroying any trace of internal meritocracy. The fifth pain is the dangerous concentration of power and tacit knowledge, making the business totally dependent on a single central heroic figure who works 15 hours a day and has not taken a vacation in years. The sixth is incredibly amateur financial management, where the owner's cash and the company's cash mix in informal withdrawals without planning, completely destroying the reading of the true operational profit margin. And the seventh pain is the severe cultural resistance to the professionalization of management, driven by the irrational fear that the simple implementation of structured boards and auditable processes means losing the soul of the company, losing the local culture, or losing control of the very work built with so much sacrifice. But there is an incredibly promising and profitable vision of the future for family enterprises that decide to break the paralysis and act with strategic vision now. The future belongs to those world-class organizations that deeply understand that perpetuity is the fruit of intentional corporate design, built always in times of peace, long before the family crisis erupts. We can and must seek immediate inspiration from the great global benchmarks that have already solved this mathematical equation of survival. Let us look at the Porsche Group in Germany, which is already prospering in its sixth generation, or the Mouliet family that owns giant brands like Leroy Merlin in France, the Centennial Klabin Group in Brazil, or the fantastic case of brand restructuring of Lego in Denmark. The great and undeniable lesson of these immense dynasties is strictly one and the same. The structuring of governance was not a desperate response to a war established in the courts. It was the robust foundation that guaranteed peace and prevented the war. In our vision of the future for your business, your company will adopt the sophisticated model of the 4 rooms of governance, metaphorically dividing the organization into hermetic and separate spaces for specific discussions. The owner's room will be the environment to define the alignment of the long-term vision. The board of directors room will be strictly to approve the macro strategy and demand technical accountability. The management room will be the stage for the heavy and daily commercial operation focused on the customer. And the family room will exist to preserve love, fundamental values, and prepare the education of the legacy for the young heirs. In the designed future of your company, you will have a rigid, clear family constitution signed by all members. This document will not sit in a drawer. It will be the living Magna Carta of your family, explicitly and irrevocably establishing the rules of the game. In it, we will define without a margin of error the criteria for the entry of heirs with tough free market demands, dictating that any family member who wishes to work in the group must compulsorily have advanced university education and several years of proven successful experience in other competing companies. We will establish very clear mathematical rules to not mix the fair salaries of operational managers with the sacred right to dividends of passive owners. We will create intelligent triggers for the transfer and protection of corporate shares and institute a pacifying committee for conflict mediation so that any problem is resolved long before disagreements reach the bureaucratic corridors of the courts. This future of high performance includes the mandatory creation of a family council operating behind closed doors with formal minutes and a facilitator, absolutely preventing the discussions and anxieties of the dinner table from spilling over into the board of directors and destroying the climate of trust among the professional executives who command the commercial trenches of the company every day. For this brilliant vision of success to become a tangible reality in your daily life, what must change drastically in your life as a manager, high-level executive, or patriarch of the business tomorrow morning? The most profound and non-negotiable change must occur exactly in your daily leadership mentality. You must abandon the posture of provider-owner and immediately adopt a strong fiduciary stewardship mentality. You need to internalize once and for all that you are not an eternal owner with absolute and untouchable power, but rather a brilliant temporary caretaker who received the sacred mission of passing the company on to the next generation in a much stronger and better financial, marketing, and structural condition than you found at the beginning. You need to stop right now resisting the professionalization of your team. The old myth that professionalizing means stifling the company or losing control is a tremendous fallacy that destroys fortunes. The administrative truth proven by data is the exact opposite. Professionalizing means creating robust systems and data dashboards that infinitely expand the reach of your control and finally free your creative energy to focus purely on the true strategic vision and the relationship with the most valuable customers. Furthermore, you must completely change the amateur way succession is treated in your routine and in your conversations. Succession can no longer be seen or feared as an isolated event on a single fateful Friday where the symbolic key to the company is handed to the chosen heir. Successful corporate succession is a large and methodical long-term project spanning years. What you need to start operating tomorrow is not just the quick transition of a position on the payroll or the simple legal donation of shares, but the profound and careful transfer of the epistemic and technical authority of the corporation. This means ensuring that your successor, whether a prepared direct family heir or an experienced newly hired market executive, receives from your hand not only the president's badge, but also actively receives and conquers the legitimacy, absolute technical respect, and unshakable credibility of your entire organization and market partners to make courageous new decisions without being internally sabotaged. For all this to happen perfectly, you need to embrace non-negotiable pillars in your administrative routine, implementing a flowchart and an organizational structure purely based on high-level competencies, strictly aligning the compensation structure with the demanding levels of the free market so as not to create complacency, and running tough performance evaluations based on mathematical data and not on the degree of family kinship or the level of personal affection you have for the employee. Your centralizing leadership style must become highly participative, acting more as an organizational architect, building safe channels so that great non-family executives can contribute innovative ideas without feeling the suffocating barrier of excessive family control that chokes their initiatives for change. We cannot continue to accept the inertia and unfounded fear that destroy brilliant corporate legacies, erase histories of overcoming, and tear families apart permanently. The real cost of a failed or amateur governance experiment is astronomically too high, often costing the fraternal family relationships of a lifetime and inevitably culminating in the commercial and financial bankruptcy of the company you sweated so much and sacrificed your own youth to build in the market. But you do not need to, and definitely should not, try to walk through this minefield of emotions and legal rules alone and without a map. KpaGold Consultoria Empresarial has the rigorous method, the right tools validated globally, and the vast market experience to guide your company and your family safely, peacefully, and structurally through this long crossing. The first and most decisive step you need to take today is to step out of the state of denial, face the reality of your numbers, and seek total and absolute clarity about your major current risks of management and the future. Therefore, I personally invite you right now to take this definitive and non-negotiable step towards the preservation of your great life's work. Schedule a deep diagnostic session with us today, entirely free of charge and with no initial commitment or financial cost. In 2 hours of purely technical, high standard, and very honest immersion, our team of senior experts will analyze your operation and map with surgical precision exactly where role confusion is silently destroying your cash profit margin, rigorously assess your current level of succession risk and dependence on people, and design side by side, shoulder to shoulder with you, the practical and highly personalized roadmap you need to build the foundation of your board and draft the first great outline of your family constitution over the next 90 days of total and irreversible focus. We build wonderful companies not just for our sustenance, but to guarantee the security and future of all those loyal employees who directly depend on this important economic engine you created, and for the dignity and honor of the generations that will take over leadership after us. Talk to our team today. Secure and book this vital time in your busy executive schedule, and let us, together with intelligence and technical strategy, transform all the sweat, tears, and victories of your past into the untouchable, secure, predictable, and highly scalable wealth of your brilliant family future. Thank you very much for dedicating your precious time and your focused attention to this theme so critical, urgent, and sensitive for the life and continuity of your family. And we will see you shortly in our strategic diagnostic session.